This is the Atezr P20 Plus laser engraver. We have spent the last few weeks putting this laser engraver through the test, and today we're going to be looking at what makes this unit unique and how it compares against other models. In this review, we're going to be walking you through the features of the Atezr P20 Plus and showing you how it performs. We will also be sharing our thoughts on the machine and giving you our honest opinion on whether or not we think it's worth the investment. Welcome back to Space Age Tech, where we look at the tech that pushes the limits. Let's unbox this unit. It is packaged very well with sufficient padding and everything is laid out logically. The parts all appear to be custom made, which is a nice touch considering how many units out there use standard 2020 or 2040 aluminum extrusions. It has a nice powder coat finish that seems durable. The pieces fit together very well and it's a very easy to assemble unit. The Atezr P20 Plus is a powerful engraver and cutter. It's capable of cutting and engraving a variety of materials. Whether you're looking to engrave wood, metal, or plastic, the Atezr P20 Plus has you covered. This machine is also very versatile and can be used for a variety of projects. One of the first things that stand out about the Atezr P20 Plus is that it's very easy to set up. The machine comes with everything you need to get started, including a tutorial video that will walk you through the process step by step. The machine is also very easy to use and comes with an easy to follow user manual. Now let's take a look at some of the specs on this machine. This diode is a quad laser at 455 nanometers wavelength. This machine puts up to 24 watts of power, giving you a slight advantage since most other competitors cap out at 20 watts. The spot size on this unit is 0.08 millimeters by 0.06 millimeters. That much smaller spot size allows you to make cleaner cuts and better engravings. The engraving bed size for this unit is 430 millimeters by 430 millimeters. The machine itself is a bit larger than most of its competitors at 743 millimeters by 503 millimeters. The larger size unfortunately makes it impossible to fit inside a 24-inch enclosure like most other units on the market. So please bear that in mind. This machine does come with an X and Y limit switch, so you can always guarantee that it will home at the exact same point. Unlike Xtool, which has its own program you can use, with this machine, like many others, you'll be forced to use either light burn or laser gerbil. This machine does come with several advantages over most of the machines at its price class. It has its own display, which is magnetically attached to the front of the unit. The display allows you to monitor start and stop engraves or cuts, or change any settings needed. It comes with its own air assist, which is a nice addition since most other engravers require you to spend an extra $100 or more just to get their air assist kit. The machine is able to cut 15mm wood and 12mm black acrylic in one single pass. The Atezr P20 Plus with multiple passes can cut 40mm black acrylic and 28mm wood, and even 0.3mm stainless steel sheets. One thing to note is that the unit runs its diode fans at full speed when it's turned on and even when it's idle. This was mentioned to Atezr support and we were told it's totally normal, but no other laser engraver we have seen has this behavior, and we hope Atezr will remedy it with a firmware update someday soon. Just bear in mind, you will need to constantly power cycle the unit in between runs, only if you're bothered by the noise. This is our first laser engraving test using a file that came with the machine. And we ran this on a 1/4-inch maple plywood. You can see that it engraved just fine out of the box. We also ran the dug cut test that came with, and unfortunately wasn't quite able to make the cut with the stock settings. Our next test was our standard engraving test, and we noticed that we got a lot of deep burn through because this unit is so powerful, but it looks to us that a good engraving number for this particular material is about 200 millimeters per second at around 50% power. Here you can see we made a few cut tests to really dial in that number on this particular material. This turned out to be around 10 millimeters per second at 100% power with 2 passes. You can see we cut a hexagon with those settings and got minimal charring on the reverse side. So it does require a bit of fine-tuning to get it just right. We also ran an engraved test on that Celtic knot symbol that we used on another test at 200 millimeters per second with 50% power, and you can see the engraving is dark and crisp on this material. Next, we tried engraving 1/4-inch cork, and this material is terrible to cut, but it engraves well. We used similar settings and did it in maple plywood, 200 millimeters per second at 50% power. We then tried the same settings again with the same design on MDF. This material is always our favorite for engraving because nothing can come out quite as crisp as the lines on MDF. Here you can see we did an image with the same settings, and this is an image of the moon over a lake with a tree, and you can see it's discernible, but it's probably not the ideal image for engraving. This does show you how high the resolution on MDF is and why we use it. Now, this is one of our least favorite materials, and it's bamboo. This material is notoriously difficult to engrave because of the difference in color across the wood due to the banding. You can see the P20 Plus did an excellent job with this material. We ran the Celtic knot symbol again at 75 millimeters per second and 100% power, and you can see the result here. This is a very nice and deep engraving that would be excellent for an epoxy fill. Then we ran the hexagon cut again at 10 millimeters per second and 100% power with 10 passes. And unfortunately, with the density difference in the banding of the wood, it wasn't able to cut completely through. To be fair though, this is a 17 millimeter bamboo piece. We ran the same settings to try to cut through a 1/4-inch MDF. You can see it had no problem cutting through the very uniform MDF. This test shows the true potential of the machine. This is a 3/4-inch thick redwood that we used the same settings that we used on the bamboo and the MDF, and the P20 Plus was able to cut right through the redwood without a problem. There is definitely potential here for a lot of cutting projects with thick material on this machine. We then ran an engraving test on the same redwood. You can see how deeply and beautiful this material engraves, and it's really ideal. Now we are running the standard engraving test on MDF. We always suggest running engraving tests before you actually engrave anything, so you can really fine-tune those values. This is the same test on an EVA foam. This material is very versatile, and the Atezr does an excellent job with it. This is a material we don't recommend most people to use. This is a 1/4-inch black opaque polycarbonate. Polycarbonate has a tendency to melt into the cut lines, making it extremely difficult to cut with most diode lasers. Since this diode is so powerful, we just had to try it. You can see here that no matter how many passes we run, we were just not able to cut through the 1/4-inch polycarbonate. Here we run a cut and engrave test on 6mm tooling leather. We have tested this material with almost every machine we have seen, and the P20 Plus did a better job than all the other diode lasers we have tested to date. It cuts cleaner and faster than anything else, and it also engraves extremely well. Now for a standard engrave test on white tile. You can see how powerful this machine really is. Up next, we run the same engraving test on the same type of tile. This time though, we painted half of the tile white and half of the tile black. You can see that just with the right settings, you can get a black mark on a white tile and a white mark on a different color tile using the correct paint. If you look at the Celtic symbol that we tried on the white paint, you can see those variations of color that are due to the thickness of the paint. That's why if you want to try this technique, we recommend you use a spray system. Here, we tried marking it on galvanized sheet metal. Unfortunately, if you want to mark on this material, you really need either a pulse or a 1064 nanometer laser if you're going to be using a diode system. Here's that 3/4-inch redwood again. We actually did a cutout of that Celtic knot symbol, and this would make a wonderful puzzle. It is extremely satisfying to watch the pieces fall out and admire how precise those cuts really are. We ran our standard engraving test on a solid piece of granite. This material has a lot of potential with this machine. One of the questions we get asked often is, when you're cutting or engraving black acrylic, why don't you just leave the plastic since it's just a clear film? As you can see in this 3mm black opaque acrylic, if you engrave it with the film on, it's impossible to tear it off cleanly. For this test, we used the 3mm black opaque acrylic and cut out a box with a Celtic knot design on several pieces. As you can see from these results, the Celtic knot was probably not the best design choice for the box this small. The box itself came out extremely well and fit together very easily. Here we ran an engraving test on these painted steel tins, and you can see not only did it remove the paint extremely well, but we actually got a graduation of color across the power and speed settings. This of course means that you can not only have a two-color image, but potentially a multicolor image if you use those oxidized hues of the steel with different settings. The Celtic knot engraving This Celtic knot engraving was done at 10 millimeters per second at 40% power. Then, we tried to get a very dark engraving running at 100% power, but this actually warped the tin box, which bent and it got deformed. Here we tried engraving on clear glass, and you can see it was unable to oblate or mark the surface. Here's the same material with a coat of white paint to try to mark a black line with the titanium dioxide of the paint onto the glass. You can see we used the black paint to do the same thing and try to get a white marking on the glass. If you take a look at those results after cleaning off the paint, you can see that around 40 millimeters per second and 70% power, we were able to successfully mark the glass, leaving behind a black mark which could be used as engraving. And here you can see we got a usable frosted mark on the black paint on the clear glass, as well across a much wider spread of speed and power settings. Here you can see that tinted glass we frequently use on other laser engraver tests, and it's just because it engraves extremely well with diode lasers in the 450 to 470 nanometer range. This is an engraving test on a stainless steel lid, and you can see how nice the variation of color came across the engraving powers and speeds. You can see we also tried engraving a Celtic knot on the same lead, but unfortunately the material was slightly warped. Then we tried a similar tile and did a really deep engraving of a Celtic symbol. We then brushed some matte black powder coat paint into the engraving to fill the recessed area. Then we placed a piece of borosilicate glass on top of the engraving to hold the powder coating in the recess and not let the fan of the diode blow the powder around. You can see the results of the powder coating melted into the recess of the engraving. Unfortunately, we slightly bumped the tile during this process, and you can see the image is slightly offset. This could be a viable option for filling engraving on many different projects. Now, let's take a look at the collective results of all of our tests. Here we have the painted stainless steel tin that engraved well with the Celtic knot, and you can see the engraving test that we did. Here again is the tinted glass that engraves so well, and it seems to work very well in every diode laser we test. Here is that clear glass that we tried engraving with the painted sides, and we also tried a Celtic symbol engraving on. You can see the stainless steel lid that we did those markings on. Here is the granite stone that we engraved on with very interesting results. Here's that tile we painted white and black to try to leave a trace amount of titanium dioxide with the white and the residue left behind with the black paint. This is that powder-coated recess-filled tile. This certainly has possibilities for future projects. This is that standard tile we did for the first engraving test, and it shows how deep this machine can really engrave on tile. Here we have the bamboo that we were not a huge fan of using, but it's so readily available that we had to run some tests on it. This is the redwood that engraved extremely deeply and also cut extremely well. You can see the Celtic knot redwood cut. This was our first test and it didn't quite cut through, so we actually had to add another pass to get the clean cuts and make it viable. And here is that Celtic knot out of the redwood. This would make an excellent puzzle, pendant, or an ornament. You can see how the pieces only fit inside one of the shapes due to the angle of the laser cut, so it really is quite a devious puzzle. Up next, we have that 3mm acrylic engraving and cut test. This material performs very well with this machine and can give you a lot of possibilities, but please make sure you remove the film before you try to engrave or cut. These are the pieces of the box we cut out of black acrylic. And a not so happy ending for the 1/4" black polycarbonate. This material is beyond use for most diode lasers currently. On a happy note, here is that beautiful 6mm tooling leather that cuts and engraves so well. This machine could be used to make excellent keychains or other projects. Here we have the 1/4" cork that is a viable material for engraving only, but it could be useful for some projects. You can see here the 1/4" MDF that we engraved, as well as the 1.5 EVA foam that we engraved on. MDF is always an excellent choice for engraving. And finally, this is the 1/4" maple plywood that we did many tests on. This material engraves very well, but cutting can be tricky as it tends to scorch and smolder. We wanted to show you why an enclosure is so important for these machines. You definitely don't want to be breathing in these fumes and don't want them circulating around your house or shop, so consider exhausting them outside. Alright, well, let's take a look at the controller of the unit. It can be hard to see in direct light, but it's usable and can be quite a convenient tool to have. Here is the air assist that comes with the unit. It works well, and it is a nice addition that really should be included in all diode lasers above 10 watts, in our opinion. it definitely makes this a great value. The thing we really like about the Atezr P20 Plus is that it's very affordable. It is a great option for those who are on a budget but still want a full-featured machine. We were very impressed with its performance and build quality. Overall, we think that the Atezr P20 Plus is a great investment for anyone who's looking to get into laser engraving. It's powerful, versatile, and very affordable. We look forward to reviewing the performance of this machine with other materials in the future. We will have more reviews coming soon on other interesting tech. Please like and subscribe, it really helps our channel grow.